Hello and welcome to Bringing Education Home. I'm Herb.
And I'm Christina. And together we bring you experts and ideas to help grow healthy, happy, successful families that are both inside
and outside the box. If you like the show, be sure to follow Christina on Facebook.
And please leave us a like review on your favorite podcast platform.
Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Dr. George Maurer. Dr. Maurer is an award-winning broadcast journalist with more than 35 years of experience. He's a retired Air Force Master Sergeant who deployed to Iraq during the global war on terrorism. He also served overseas in Japan, Korea, and the Portuguese Azores. For his final assignment, he served in the Pentagon Press Briefing Room alongside all major news organizations. He's interviewed high-profile guests such as Sammy Hagar, Pat Benatar, Dan Aykroyd, Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, and many more. He's covered major events such as Super Bowl XLII, what's that, 37? 32. And 2 Major League Baseball All-Star games. He's also interviewed top defense officials such as Secretary of Defense Robert Gates and Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff Michael Mullen. Critical race theory has completely infiltrated the American education system. Education leaders often deny CRT, but fully support it behind the scenes. As a parent, you might not understand CRT, but don't feel bad. They don't want you to understand CRT. So this is a really awesome thing that we're talking about here because I have a lot of passion for this topic as well because I've been following it for a lot of years, and I watched my wife go through heck in school when they started bringing this out. So welcome, Dr. Maurer. It is a pleasure to have you here. I am so looking forward to this conversation because more people definitely need to hear this.
Well, I appreciate you having me, and I agree with you. This is a subject that doesn't get enough attention. And when it does get attention, you're generally already behind the power curve because it's already hurt you in a way that you never expected. And so, unfortunately, that's how a lot of people first begin hearing about it. So.
And we also know, if you do know about it, it could be a political hot button, right? You could be on one side.
Oh, very much so.
But as we are, the Bringing Education Home podcast, it's an important discussion to have with an open mind and an open heart. Find out more. Don't just listen to whatever is out there in the news. Remember that we, Herb and I, Bringing Education Home, is all about helping families become better. And part of that is discussing some of the hard things or some of the things that might be politically hot. So let's dive in, have a great conversation, and really, figure out what's going on and how we can help our kids in the future. You have a question to start out with?
So I saw this coming like long time ago. I was a conservative as a little kid. I remember growing up. I'm a Gen Xer when Family Ties was like first on the show, and I so very much identified with Alex Keaton's with Alex Keaton.
And he was the brunt of most of the jokes of the show.
Yeah, because he was the capitalist. He was a young kid, and his parents were what I call crunchy. They were the granola people, and
right.
And it's just an easy way to describe them. So even way back then, I realized I fell on the conservative spectrum even as a young person, which is actually really strange for young people because they just tend to fall more the other way and tend to become more conservative as they get older. Mm-hmm. And I totally forgot where I was going with this. So
sorry.
So when critical race theory first started coming out, it was like, this is bad. This is bad.
Right.
And I didn't have the speech or the words or the language to necessarily identify why. I could just see it, know it was coming, feel the wrongness of it, even way back in the 70s and 80s before it got such a stronghold now. Where is this coming from?
Yeah.
Well, it is coming from, at its true core, Marxism. They try to divide nations and people by class once upon a time. And that's what the original of Marxism is. Capitalism is bad. If only you would, let us take over your country and take over the means of operations and control everything, then everyone would live a fair life. There would be no poverty. There would be no crime. And of course, we know, any student of history knows the exact opposite is what happens. You give that much power to a small group of people, they end up shooting people in the back of the head. Venezuela is probably the most recent example, where they had an oil industry and a gas industry that was doing quite well, bringing in a lot of money. And a couple of Marxists convinced the citizens of Venezuela that they were being ripped off, that the capitalists were, those evil capitalists were stealing your money. And so they voted in some Marxists. And a couple of years later, they're eating their pets and eating out of trash cans. And that's just the way this stuff always seems to go. My young bride, I call her my young bride because she's 10 years younger than I am, and we just got married in December. But she's part Cuban, and her family often goes to Cuba. And they just, obviously Cuba's a communist country, and they all got sick when they went there, and they could not find a cold tablet to save their lives. The grocery stores are empty. The pharmacies are empty. I mean, you name it. Anything you want to buy, you have to buy off the black market. And it's, that's communism. Now, more recently, here in America, it is, instead of class, what they're attacking now is they're trying to divide us by race. And so they tell you that critical race theory is to make everyone equal and to feel powerful and accepted, and and to promote diversity. But it doesn't do that at all. What it does, it is inflicting division between children. There was one parent, and I did note this in my book. There was one parent who walked into his child's kindergarten class, 5 and 6-year-olds, and there was a whiteboard, and the whiteboard said, "Today's lesson is about freedom." And so, while exploring freedom, the children were told to discuss 5 basic sentences, and I could never remember all 5 off the top of my head, but it was whites harass blacks, whites have more than people of color, threatening body language, and you must fight in a war. And there was one more about whites being horrible to people of color. Okay, now you put a group of adults into a room to explore those sentences, you're going to have anger, fighting. I mean, most adults don't have the emotional maturity to conduct that conversation. What is it going to do to 5 and 6-year-olds? What is the impact going to be? And it's just example after example after example of things just like that.
The crazy part about that for me is you're saying kindergarten, 5 and 6-year-olds, right?
5 and
First of all,
6-year-olds.
they don't have lived experience
Nope.
to have a discussion around that.
Not even
Second of
close.
all, most of them have probably had just a really pretty easygoing childhood up to that point and don't even have a base for talking about something like that. And then
Correct.
third is like, oh my gosh, immediate division in the classroom. Oh, you're white, I'm a different color. Why are they saying these kinds of things? And putting those seeds in these little kids' heads is horrendous. I can't, yeah.
Yeah, and those children probably never had that thought pass through their minds one time. One of the groups that I covered in my book was Moms for Liberty, and they're in Tennessee. They started in Tennessee. They're all over now, but there was a reading program called Wit and Wisdom. That I won't get too deep into it, but it's, we may discuss it at some point. But how she got her group started was her young daughter never, ever, ever referred to any of her multiracial, culturally playmates by their color or their race, nothing. It was always that boy in the blue sneakers, that girl in the pink shirt. She watched one 13-minute critical race theory video and completely lost her innocence. Now it's that black girl, that white boy, that Hispanic girl. And that was forever embedded into her language from that day forward. 13 minutes, that's all it took them.
Wow. And I would think, you know, if we're trying to treat people more equally and be on a, you know, even kind of footing, I would rather have my child say, yeah, the little boy with the blue sneakers, than
Exactly.
dividing by race or color or whatever. You know, oh, the little girl who always wears the pink ribbons. That makes so much more sense when you're describing your friends, because these are friends, these are people that
Of
you
course it
care
does.
about, that you play with.
And children like that, and this is something that I've run across, and I posted on my my social media. There was two young boys. One was black, one was white. They got the same haircut and they wore the same shirt to school one day because they thought they could trick their teacher into not knowing who was who.
Oh,
Isn't that the most beautiful thing you ever heard?
yes, it's so
If we
innocent,
were all
lovely.
like that, if we were
Yeah.
all like that, think about how many of our problems would just disappear.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So wow, again, I keep coming back to this because the 20th century was filled with wars that proved that this ideology does not work. Even again, towards the end of the 70s, it's like blast wars. This doesn't work. And here we are now having these ideologies pushed in our schools as an actual valid way of looking at things. Hundreds of millions of people died in the last century because of the failures of these systems, and tens of millions died of the wars fought to end them. So how is this coming back into the education system? I mean, it can't be an accident. It can't be
No.
stupidity. So
No.
What's
It's simple. It's simple. Leftists are leftists. And they were the same as they were in 1850, as they were in 1917 when the collapse, you know, when the Soviet Union began, in 1950 when North Korea stood up. They're just the same. Nothing changes. I mean, just literally nothing changes. And they are working to do the things that Karl Marx has always wanted them to do or promoted: the end of capitalism, the control of the entire country, society by a small group of people, the end of the nuclear family. I mean, the end of religion, anything that divides your attention away from worshiping these small group of people who want to control everything you own is a distraction and needs to be taken care of. And I mean, if you look at a group called the World Economic Forum, have you ever heard of them before?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. For those who haven't, the World Economic Forum is a group of people that meet in Davos, Switzerland, I believe once a year, maybe every couple of years. But they attract the most powerful leaders in the country. Chances are your elected senator, your elected House of Representatives, you know, they went. Mine did. And I thought he was a Republican and a conservative. And I even called him. I said, why were you in Davos, Switzerland? And of course, I never got an answer back. But anyone of any authority or power, Bill Gates is there, the guy running Apple, I mean, you name it, they're there. And they're pushing things. Klaus Schwab, who recently had to step down because his behavior was just so incredibly bad that it was just they couldn't control it anymore. Sexually harassing everybody, stealing money, you name it. But he was in charge of the World Economic Forum for 50 years, and his basic strategy was by 2030, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. And my response to that is, you know what? you first, buddy. You first. You give away everything you own, and then maybe I'll think about it. But this is why they're doing it. They are literally stealing every single thing you and I own. They are hollowing out the middle class. That's what climate change is about. That's why they're saying things like you can't eat beef, you're going to have to ground up crickets, and that's going to have to be what your hamburgers are made of. And it sounds insane, and it absolutely does. It all sounds insane. It is
I think
insane.
it sounds insane now. Okay. I actually was talking about this stuff like 20, 30 years ago. No joke. In college, it's like I was talking to people in my college class.
And then they really thought you were crazy back then, I'm
really,
sure.
And now it's like, you know, I again wasn't sure how to deal with all of this. I didn't gather the verbal landscape like you have. I didn't.
New World Order, Trilateral Commission. I mean, it was all there. President Bush, the first President Bush, said, now we're going to start a new world order.
No.
Why? Because the Bush family, they're part of this. Oh, they're Republicans. That doesn't matter.
Yeah, the first Bush was at the Kennedy assassination. How many people know that? So
I do.
It's like, ooh, we're getting out in the weeds.
So what I want to say,
I love this. So thank you for getting out in the weeds. Thank you for going out there. And something you said in there, you just kind of threw it away as one of the things that you talked about. They're also trying to get rid of religion. And I think that's also probably the number one thing they're trying to get rid of, because true Marxism, if you get down to it, it is evil at its core. And it's and religion, it's anti-religion, because if you go into Christianity, if you take the spirituality out of Christianity and you just go by what they say on how to live, you will live a better life and you will grow a happy society.
Sure.
But if you take God out of it, it all falls apart. So I think Marxism and the power behind that, and the reason it still comes back, is because it is the heart of evil that is coming through. So that I'm taking a stance there. I'll go there. I'll say that. But now let's bring it back home, because we are talking to parents who can't do anything globally, who can't step out and make a difference in the world. So we have to make a difference at home, in our community, locally, because and again, this is why I say get your kids out of school as quick as possible if you can. If it's not possible, so we have to
be involved.
We have to be involved. So again, get your kids out of school. I read part of your things like, if you can do that, I agree. But if you can't, let's start talking about how we can start locally getting some of this stuff back. What do you have to do as a parent?
Well, first thing you need to do as a parent is you need to look at your child's schoolwork. Okay. You need to see what kind of lessons they're learning, ask your child, what kind of things does your teacher say? Go to school. If you can afford it. Not everybody can afford to take the time off, but if you can, take a day off, take a day of your very valuable vacation time. And what's more valuable than your child? Spend the day in the classroom.
If your school allows it. Her school stopped allowing that. Security concerns, can't have the parents in the classroom anymore.
Security concerns, please. I mean, again, if you look at it just for a little bit, what's really going on. They don't want you to know these things. So, but get involved. One of the things you can do is you can go online. Most schools these days have their curriculums out online, their curricula out online, and you can look at the class descriptions for each of your child's classes. And if you're seeing words like oppression, systemic racism, chances are your child is being exposed to a form of critical race theory or DEI. And I kind of see them as interchangeable. There's differences, but DEI tends to be more business associated, more administratively associated. CRT is more in the classroom kind of stuff. But if you see something you don't like, say something. And you're probably going to, if this is a truly a liberal warrior, a liberal social justice warrior that you're dealing with, they're going to push back. Well, it's just required. There's nothing I can do about it, and that's not true. It's not true. And now you just, okay, you don't want to do anything, you go to the principal, and you have to go. If you have to go to the school board, go to the school board. And one of the things that can be very scary, more than death, people think are scared of public speaking. Okay. So how do you as a non-professional speak publicly? It's simple. Most school boards will have 2 or 3 minutes set aside for comments for each school board meeting. Find out which one it is. If it's 2 minutes, you bring up the things that you want to say, type it out, read it, time it out so that it's 2 minutes so that you're sure, then practice in front of other people. Okay. Try to get, comfortable with it. And then when you're actually there, you're going to be nervous. There's no doubt about it. That's okay. Don't worry about it. Now, you don't need eye contact. Okay. Focus on your paper. Just read the words. And when you're done, just turn around, say thank you, and walk away. But that will help you control your emotions, number one. But number two, it'll help you get everything out. Now, if you lose control of your emotions, and if you call the school board president a name, guess what happens? You're the problem. Okay. And generally, these people are very good at playing the victim. And if you give them that much, just that much room, they're going to take it. And next thing you know, the police are going to be called and you're going to be dragged out. And nothing you say matters anymore. You are essentially a terrorist, a domestic terrorist, which parents who were getting upset at school board meetings, they were being compared to domestic terrorists by the largest teachers unions in this country. I mean, it isn't. They are very skilled at this stuff, so you have to be very careful.
Even if you don't lose your temper, they're going to deny that's really what they're doing.
Yes, they are.
And the next step after denying it, you say, okay, so we are doing it. What do you really care? How is this hurting you? So they deflect. And then if you keep pushing, then they start attacking you personally. So they will say, you're a racist if you don't go along with this. So if you also going to go up and speak against this, you have to be prepared for this. So even if you do everything right, they're still going to come after you. Something that I would also recommend is actually going online and looking for videos of people who've done it correctly, who've said the right things, who've remained calm. There's a lot of this stuff out there right now. So even if you don't have the words for yourself, go find somebody else who's talking about it and try and emulate them.
Now, it can be hard to find. The positive stuff can be hard to find. I've tried to get a speaking career started on this, and I've done a couple of speeches and stuff. But when I joined a group called Charlie Jane Speakers, and they were, we'll hook you up with people who were looking for speakers, and and I was like, okay, well, before I put my money down, do you have any people who need speakers on critical race theory and DEI? Oh, we've got like 1,000 on our list. And I was like, okay. So I paid for it and I got the list. And there was about 1,000 of these people who needed speakers on this subject. One was against it. The other 999 plus were all pro. This is so wonderful. We're curing racism in the country. If you only do what we want, we'll solve all of our problems, et cetera, et cetera. So that is what you're up against. And that's part of the reason why I wrote the book, was because finding the truth is so difficult. And when you go looking for answers on this stuff, most of it tells you it's the most wonderful thing in the world. And if you're against it, you're the problem. And well, no, that's not the case at all.
So let's help our parents a little bit more, right? Because like you say it in your book, you're like, your school district is going to tell you we're not teaching that. That's something they teach in colleges. We
Right.
are not doing anything that would influence your child to be, or you're the problem because you don't agree with this, right? Can you
Correct.
give one or two more examples, like you did kind of at the beginning, that kindergarten class, and kind of what they were talking about that is this kind of stuff? Can you give one or two more examples? And then what is something the parent also can say, is like, I see it in this way?
Sure. Well, if we can go back to Wit and Wisdom now in Tennessee, they began looking at the reading program. First of all, Wit and Wisdom failed to be implemented not once, but twice. The first time it failed, they basically replaced everybody with supportive people ideally, but it failed again. And so after it failed the second time, they said, well, you know what, we're going to institute it anyway, which is again the heavy-handed, totalitarian, communist, Marxist view or way they handle everything.
The school
So
district or the state that did that?
the school district,
Okay.
the school district, and in this one particular, and I forget the name of the exact school district. So anyway, they implemented it anyway, and this Miss Steenman, Moms for Liberty, they started going through the reading program, and they started reading the books. And there was one, and they gave a list of things. Kindergarten class, a mom bird goes to fly and get food, comes back and finds out a monkey murdered one of her babies. Okay, kindergarten. Second grade book. There was one of the illustrations in this book, there were white students and Hispanic students, and one of the illustrations showed a pool, a public pool. All the white children were inside the pool having fun. All the Hispanic children were outside the fence, and the fence, of course, looked like jail bars. Okay. And then there was a sign next to the pool that said, public pool, no Mexicans or dogs allowed. Second grade. Okay. Then I think this was also second grade. Ruby Bridges, the first Black girl who went to school, African American girl who went to school in New Orleans, I believe. Very important time. Lessons there are infinite and could be wonderful. However, this one book, of course, they focused on the negative, but there is a famous Norman Rockwell painting where the N-word is scribbled in the back. Ruby is walking along a white wall, and there's people in front of her and back of her, and then the N-word is up on the wall behind her. The teacher's manual, and it's kind of subdued, so it can be kind of hard to see. The teacher's manual instructs the teacher to make sure those children see that N-word on the wall. So if your child was going into second grade and was completely unaware of the N-word, critical race theory and Wit and Wisdom made sure they knew exactly what it was. Now, Ms. Steenman went to a psychiatrist, psychologist, one of the two, and said, what exactly is this? All of this negative, just your country's bad, your color is bad, your family is bad, this is bad. And he called it the psychology of shame. And as these parents were going through and reading these books and documenting these issues, the adults found themselves getting depressed. So now imagine you're a second grader or first grader or kindergartner. What kind of an impact is it going to have on that child if those books can do that to adults? What can it do to children?
Wow. One thing I want to bring up here is so super important, that no matter where your child goes to school, you are the parent. You
Yes.
have the right to say, I don't
Yes.
want them to participate in this lesson, this activity, this whatever's happening in the classroom. So if you educate yourself and right, that's why they always have to send home the permission slips for the health education lessons, right? That's why
Right.
usually state testing is mandatory, but if you know your rights, you can go in and opt your child out of state testing. It goes with anything. So parents, be involved, really go look and see. If you're concerned about something, go figure out how to opt out. Or you also have the right to say, hey, my child's not coming to school today. Now, don't get in trouble with truancy because you don't want to do that, but you
Right.
have that right. So be involved.
So
And-
the this is a pendulum, and the pendulum is shifting back the other way.
Absolutely.
It
Yes.
absolutely is. So President Trump has signed executive orders to
Agree.
remove it from the military. I believe he's also said to remove it from the education system.
Yes.
But
It takes
top
all-
down. They changed it top down, and it took 50 years to get it to this point. It might not take that long to swing back the other way, but it is going to take time because the people also, again, it's not at the government level, it's at the school board level, which is community level. So how is it that a community-wide cannot want this stuff, but the school board can still somehow make that happen against the parents' wishes? How is it that the school boards are having this kind of power, and where is that coming from, and how are they getting it? And because it seems like it's very global, but again, it's at a community level.
Sure. Well, I did a quick search for the latest on CRT and DEI in Oregon. Okay. And despite the fact that President Trump has written 3, I believe, executive orders saying that, and here's the funny part. Many people, when you tell teachers, hey, we don't teach critical race theory in schools. We don't teach critical race theory in schools. So, but when in fact they often do. Okay. And so President Trump, in his executive order, banned critical race theory without calling it critical race theory. And I think that's his sense of humor. Personally, I found that hilarious. I found it funny. But he has 3 executive orders saying that if you teach these things in school, we can take away your federal funding. And that doesn't stop people. Let me get my phone out here. The Oregon School Board has continued its Equity 365 campaign launched in 2020, despite the fact that these executive orders have come out. They're not slowing down.
No.
And this was a few years back, but there is a thing called DODEA in the Defense Department. DODEA is the schools for children of service members. If you're living in Germany, you have an American-style school on base there. And they were ordered by Congress to get rid of DEI and CRT. And they testified before Congress, said, I swear I will. And then they went out and all they did was change the name. They shuffled a couple of people around, moved some money around, changed the name to Systemic Equality, and never changed a thing. Okay. And that sounds like what the Oregon School Boards Association is trying to do here. And then there was a town called Newburgh that actually tried to follow this stuff, and they banned political symbols like teachers having Black Lives Matter and pride flags in their classrooms. Inappropriate, just completely inappropriate. And they potentially violated state equity laws by doing that, and faced a great deal of resistance. And so, even with these executive orders, these people are not giving up. This is their religion. These are hardcore leftists and Marxists. They are very dedicated to this, to the point of Antifa. They are leftist. We're anti-fascist, and we use fascist tactics to prove we're anti-fascist. Okay, way to go, idiots.
The brown coats in Germany were the same way.
Exactly.
Everybody with an independent opinion was called a fascist and killed. It's like
Right.
that's what fascism is.
And Antifa uses the same symbol as there was a German group, I think it was the German Communist Party. It's the exact same symbol. It's exact these flags. I mean, they didn't change anything. I think they changed the color from red to black. Nothing else. But I mean, these folks are dedicated, very dedicated, and they're not going to slow down. And now they've allegedly they've had a lot of their funding removed by Doge, and I hope that's true. But you can't play nice with these folks. You just can't. They're not going anywhere. And so,
another way that
well,
tells
I don't want to
something-
cause any trouble. Well, you have to cause trouble. And I don't want you to go outside the bounds of the law. You have to be legal. I mean, you have to do everything right, but don't take this lying down, because they will kick you at the very first opportunity.
You know, another way that you can kind of tell things are improving right now is because when controversial decisions come down that used to cause riots,
Right.
even in
35
Portland,
people show up.
there aren't just random pallets of bricks dropped all over town anymore.
Exactly.
Right before a charged decision
Exactly.
comes up. So they can't afford their pallet of bricks to lay around the city.
Or frozen bottles of water. Exactly.
So let's focus.
Sorry.
let's-
Wow, getting off track there.
Let's focus on our
That's
parents.
okay.
because
But it's all related. It's all tied in. And
is.
when you try to explain this to people, they look at you like you're a lunatic. And I get it. I've been, I'm so used to it, doesn't bother me anymore.
I have a
But it
super
did
easy
for a
way
long
of
time.
explaining this too. Because even again, the first Bush talked about the New World Order. And,
Yes, he did.
and even in the European world, they're talking about a one world government, and they're trying to arrange all of that. Okay. A one world, the only way you can have a one world government is if the United States goes away, because the one world government is not going to be called the United States. Okay.
Correct.
So the United States has to go away for most of these globalist plans to
The
take.
United States is the final line of resistance against this.
And so we are under attack, have been for a lot of
Yes.
years. And it's because we have a republic. It's because we have a voting system. And thank God we have a republic instead of a democracy, because
And a constitution.
it's a slower change. So, thank God that was all put in place for us. But still,
I
we
agree.
do have to maintain it, and it does take time to change, and it's slow. So we open the door to them, because that's the way a republic works. But we also have to be responsible and understand and educate ourselves. And so that's why the dumbing down of America since the 1940s, again, I paid attention to this stuff. It's like our education system has been going downhill since the 40s.
Yep.
Took a huge turn in the 70s after Nixon took us off the Bretton Woods standard, and then we put us back under the thumb of the globalist banking system. So it's like I've been paying attention to this stuff, and I actually prepared my life to take advantage of this, and then I hurt my head, my business fell apart and everything. Right at the damn finish line, I fell on my face. So it kind of sucks. But at the same
But
time,
you're still working for it, though. You're still working to defend this country against these things with this podcast.
yeah.
So you haven't given up. You're still there. You're still
I
doing
talk
the good
about
fight.
it, but again, for years it was like, no, you're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. That's not happening.
Yep.
And it inch
Yep.
by inch by inch by inch. And then if you look back 10 years, it's like, you said this wasn't happening. Look, but what?
Right.
So
But let's go back to
now,
our parents.
back to our parents. Can
are the
we
first line?
can we recover the
Yes.
school? Yes, we can help inside of the family, but can we recover schools? Can parents take it back?
Yes. And the first thing you need to do is either elect a parent-friendly school board, one who defends parents' rights, or maybe run for a school board position yourself. You don't need to be a doctor to be on a school board, and again, these are your children. These are your children. I mean, if anyone in this world is worth your time and worth your effort and worth your grit and your fight, it's your children. And so at the very least, start paying attention to who you're electing. Your mayor, your governor. When you elect a governor, make sure he's a pro-parent, pro-freedom person.
Family.
Okay, so one
No,
caveat
no.
here in Oregon, it's like we don't have fair elections. Our
We don't
elections
here
are
in
completely
California either. I
mail-in.
live in
Really gonna
California.
get
We
us
don't
mad
either.
now.
Yeah, our elections, the way our elections are run, we've actually have friends who've been in and monitored the elections and said, hey, that you did that wrong. That actually says this, and they put in the other person, and it's like, hey, whatever, do what you going to do about it. So Oregon, at a political level, it's going to be incredibly difficult to win an election.
However,
it's really weird. In one county, one conservative got on, and in the school board meeting, they had a disagreement,
right.
and they called the cops, and they arrested the conservative school board out of the meeting.
I don't doubt that at all. However, election integrity is another topic that President Trump is very serious about addressing. So, I mean, when you look at it, and you say this to people, and they really think you're crazy. President Trump is not only saving this country, but he's possibly saving the world from these people. And I believe that with 100% of my heart.
Even if he doesn't get everything right, even if he makes mistakes,
so
the grander picture of what he's doing is so in 2016, I heard a whisper the very first time, somebody said President Trump might run. And the second that I heard that, my heart opened and it's like, oh my gosh, thank goodness. And I knew he was going to be president. And I knew, so.
The moment I was a pro-Trump guy was the moment where he was walking around. He had some reporters following him around. I think it was a CNN reporter who asked him a question, and I don't even remember what the question was. But Trump turned around and said, "What kind of a stupid question is that?" And I was like, yes, yes. As a student of the press and the media and being in the, yes, someone finally called out a reporter for being a lying scumbag. And I mean, if you pay attention, anyone who watches the news at all, you're a fool.
You're a fool.
They lie to you all day long. Oh, well, Fox News. No, Fox News sold out at least 8 years ago. At least 8 years ago. And so, anyway, we can get started on that. But let's talk about parents some more.
We want our parents to really stop and think. If you're still listening with us, which I hope everybody is, I want you to stop and think about this. If the guys have said something, if I've said something that have ruffled your feathers, dig deeper. Why did it ruffle the feathers? Why did it cause you a little bit of, what's going on? Dig deeper. Whatever they've said, whatever I've said, go and look up these different things. It's not that we're just talking about crazy stuff. You are a journalist. You've done the research. You've been in war zones in different places.
Interview the Secretary of State of the United States of America. Right? That's like the third or fourth most powerful person in the world. It's like, well, at least politically.
I've covered three presidents, and I was actually an announcer on the inaugural path for President Obama as he was going into office. I have covered the highest individuals in our country. I worked side by side with CBS, ABC, CNN, inside of the Pentagon. I went to the same briefings they did, and I watched the stories that they produced that were lies. 180 degrees opposite of what they were just briefed, and they went the opposite way with these, and they do it all the time. Russian collusion, they knew they were lying about Russian collusion when they talked about it for 3 years. The very fine people comment in Charlottesville, Virginia.
All of that. Oh my gosh, we're on my soapbox now. You'll get me.
And I mean, for 7 years, they talked about it, and Kamala Harris actually brought it up at the debate with President Trump during the last election here. All you got to do is read the sentence before that comment and the sentence after that comment, and everything they've said for 7 years, it's a lie. And they knew they were lying about it, and that's never stopped them. So the school, you're going to run to the same thing in the schools. These people are dedicated, man, and they know they're wrong. They know the information they're giving you is misinformation. but don't expect that to slow them down, because it's not.
All right, so I'm gonna jump towards the end of your book a little bit, because we're also going to talk about another one of my passions that Christina probably doesn't know about. Because in the last chapter, you talked about how to talk to kids and keep them up and healthy and happy and talking to your kids. And you brought up possibly running them through the child version of the Myers-Briggs type index, which is another one of those tools that radically changed and helped me in my life when I hurt myself and my world went awry. Learning about the Myers-Briggs type index and the personality type index, and for kids, is like super duper awesome. So how did you come to that? Let's talk about that a little bit, about how using a personality test can help your kids combat
what's going on,
combat CRT and DEI.
Sure.
This is fascinating.
Well, and this is nothing new, I mean, and I talked about this in my book. In the Bible, use your talents, use your skills to help your fellow man. Okay. So everybody's good at something. Find out what it is, and then use that to make the world better for everyone. Okay. This is not a new idea. But when I was in college, when I returned to college after I retired from the military, we took the Myers-Briggs, and I was like, this is really interesting. Okay, that explains a lot about me. And I cannot remember my 4 letters off the top of my head, but I tend to be, more aggressive. I tend to be, more in your face. And it's not like I'm trying to be a jerk, but, it's just kind of built into my personality sometimes, but I don't mean bad. I mean well. I always mean well. I'm here to help you if I can. And I learned a couple of things about myself that were very interesting. And then when I found the child one, and again, I should have scanned through my book a little bit. Do you remember what the website was?
I don't remember the website, but I believe it was K&L.
K&L, knowledgeandlearning.com, I believe is what it was. So, but my wife's daughter, Maya, she's a bit of an introvert. She's an extreme introvert. And so when I was kind of finishing up the book here, I said, Maya, why don't you take this test? And we found that she is someone who is very introverted, does her best thinking, does her best work when she's alone. And she does some really deep thoughts for an 11-year-old. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, she does deeper thoughts than I do on most topics. But the other thing was, it just helped her understand who she was, but it helped her mother understand who she was too. She spends all that time in her room, she needs to get out and do things and no, I mean, yeah, but no, she needs that time. It's part of who she is. And as a good parent, you should guide them in that direction. Now, there is, of course, a point where it's like, okay, it's time to come out of your room now. And you got to get out and do something. But that time is how she regenerates, how she heals, how she moves forward in all of her emotional strength and all of her mental strength as well.
All right. So anyway, you were an ESTJ according to your book.
That's right. I was.
And again,
judging. I was J. J stands for judging. Well, it doesn't mean you judge people. I'm a big old judger. Trust me, I am a judger.
Let me break this down. ESTJ, extroverted. So
yes.
You're on the outside. You gain energy when you're dealing with people. S,
when I'm with others.
Sensing.
Yes.
The sensing is, again, it's an external, you're sensing what's going on. The other one is the N, which is intuitive. So you intuit, you go inside to think what's going on. Your S, you sense, you go, what's going on? I look around and I go, oh, this is familiar. What's going on? So that's different.
T's an N.
T and J. I'm an N. T and J or T and F are the next two. Thinking or feeling. You're thinking. You're up in the head. It's I wouldn't say shallow, but it's not as deep as feeling. Feeling kind of goes back in here, and you feel it through your body instead of you think about it.
Sure.
The last one is perceiving and judging. And perceiving is you're taking it in and you kind of can go whichever way. And judging is you're taking it in and it's like, that's right, that's wrong. I need to go this way.
You are wrong.
Okay. So no, it's not you are wrong. It's that's not right for me. So it's like, nope, that's wrong. I'm going this way. So
Yeah.
I am INFJ.
Thank you for remembering that, by the way.
Completely opposite. I mean, you and I are the exact. So I'm introverted intuitive. So you go outside, I go inside. You're the sensing versus the intuition. Again, you go outside, I go inside. You think, I go feeling, I go perceiving, you go judge. It's so fascinating the way these things work.
And what that means is you and I would probably be great friends, actually, just because we're so polar opposite. We would probably get along like, peanut butter and jelly, or peas and carrots, as Forrest Gump once said, I guess.
Right. You pull me into adventure and I
bet.
get you thinking about stuff as you go. So I've had some ESTJ friends before. So it's pretty cool. Exactly. But again, and how this is really helpful is this is a baseline of how you're going to react on default.
Or your child might react.
Your child might react on default. So your daughter, you said, is an introvert. Mm-hmm. That's her default. That's her preference. Yes. But that's not who she is. Okay. She can build up character. So you put you build character. So it's like, I'm an introvert. That means being extroverted, being out there is more difficult for me. So I have to put more effort and build tools into it.
And it doesn't mean
that's
you can't
what that means.
Exactly.
It doesn't lock you into being alone. Yeah. It means that you have to find new tools to get what you want.
Excellent. I agree completely.
So I'm sorry. I'm sorry I took that away from you.
No.
Again,
wonderful.
That's one of these things that saved my life.
I couldn't have said it better.
I love
Thank you.
This topic.
Yeah.
I'm just actually I don't have anything to add. I think you covered it great. And so that's why we're sitting here looking at each other, because I'm like, I don't know what to say.
I'm supposed to be letting you talk, though.
Right?
No, you did great. You did great.
But as parents, right, you take this information that was just being discussed. And again, you're not labeling your child to put them in a box. You're giving your child some labels or some ideas to help you support and grow them.
Find tools that help.
Find tools to help them. Exactly.
Because also in the back of the book, really the biggest combat for parents to help their children is, from what I was reading in your book, is to maintain their emotional health at home. Make sure that they're okay, that they're studying, that you're talking to them, that they're not getting depressed by reading this stuff, that they're not getting frustrated because of how their relationships are changing. So again, it comes back to you. Would you like to speak a little more about that?
I mean, again, I think we've covered it. I mean, you're right on. I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. And I do want to say thank you so much for covering that portion of the book. I've probably done 35 podcasts on this. No one has ever gotten to the back of my book to actually discuss this. So I'm extremely impressed by your research and your preparation. But yes, as a parent, you have to help your child understand who they are, accept who they are, and learn to use those things to better themselves and perhaps go outside of their comfort zones. I mean, you summed it up perfectly. I couldn't have done it better.
Yeah, because the antithesis to CRT is self-responsibility and self-reliance. And so again, if you can get your kids to be inside, or not to be inside, but to be okay with themselves and to trust themselves, then so much of that other stuff just falls away as nonsense.
One of the very first things we need in order to be successful in this life is self-understanding. And once you have that, then all of these little things, the little boy teasing you in school, and the teacher comment, they don't hurt. They don't hurt nearly as much, because you've built this this armor of self-understanding, which helps you get through the many challenges we all face. We all have incredible challenges during our lifetime. And if you understand who you are, and if you love who you are, bing, 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 doesn't even matter.
And then
It
you can
doesn't
love
even
lots
matter.
of other people too.
And
because
then you
love
can
you.
love others as well. Exactly.
Dr.
Yeah,
Maurer,
good point.
thank you so very, very much for this very interesting conversation and, really enlightening and putting some information out there that a lot of people aren't getting right now. So thank you very much for being on the show. We appreciate it.
Now,
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
we went all over the board. We jumped in the box. We jumped out of the box. We left the box and went to the moon. So we went all over the place. But is there something that is like, you know what? This is something that I always want to talk about and they always miss it? Or is there something that we miss? Right. Well, again, is there something else? Is there something that's like, wow, I really wish that we'd have got here today because this is really important too?
No, not so much. Again, the personality test is something that I never have gotten to during an interview, and here we are. And so I was very grateful for that. But for the most part, I think we've covered all the important things. Other than if you want a copy of my book, you can find it on Amazon. You have to put in the full title. Critical Race Theory in Your School, How to Fight Back. And you may even need to add my name, George Maurer, Maurer, and make sure that you're getting the second edition. Because I did do, it released originally in May of 2024, and then I did a little bit of a refresh in May of 25. So the second edition is the better of the two, I think. Now, I only have the Kindle version and out there. I keep saying this. I'm almost done with the paperback version to put it out there. I know some people, they just like to read paper. I will try to get back to it soonest, and so that people will have options.
Excellent. And of course, everything he just said is down in the show notes, right? The website and the name of the book and everything else is all there. So if you didn't get it written down quick enough, just go to the show notes and it's all there as well. So thank you again, Dr. Maurer, for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Our RV trip to Oregon, which we just finished, we fell in love with Oregon while we were there. Beautiful state, absolutely gorgeous. And if we leave California, I think we're going to move to Ashland. I think that's the goal. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I love it.
So we live about an hour and a half from Ashland, up in the mountains. What was that?
If we move, we'll meet for lunch sometime.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say you might want to move a little
halfway.
farther up out of Ashland. It's still
a little bit more towards Medford.
Yeah, my sister went to Stock back when it was Southern Oregon College. Now it's SOSU. Now it's SOSU or something like that.
Yeah.
And she went a little liberal going to school there. So but anyway,
I saw it all around. But you know what? I've been in California for more than 20 years. I can handle being around liberals without without giving my morals away. So yeah.
But
I'm okay.
Southern Oregon is about the least liberal of the liberals.
We have
area,
to wrap up.
We have to wrap up.
Way too long.
So
no, let's talk more.
Yeah. Dr. Maurer,
we'll go off there.
Thank you so much for being here today. So many people today are seeing these problems and they just complain about it. They go online and they get mad and they don't do anything about it. And here you are, you wrote a book, you're going out and you're telling people, hey, this really is a problem, and you're trying to make a difference. You are making a difference. And so you went out and you found the dragon, you fought the dragon, and you're bringing that information back. And that is the hero's journey. So Dr. Maurer, you are a hero. You're out fighting the dragon and you're bringing all the spoils back to the people who need it. So thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for being here today. Keep at it, because even though the pendulum is swinging, we still need to keep it. We still need to keep it going, and we need to have people learn about this. So thank you for being here.
So kind of you to say thank you so much. Appreciate you having me.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, audience, you know what time it is. It is time to like, review, and share, right? Because I bet there is somebody who would find this conversation super interesting and have questions about some of the things that was said in here and would love to discuss and maybe dig a little bit deeper. So find your best friends who can discuss with calm heads, right? And get in there and share this episode. And parents, take all the parenting things that we said, right? How to address your children, how to help your children, how to address the school district. Take all of that good information and put it to work, making your child happy, healthy, and successful. Until next time, see you later. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
Hello and welcome to Bringing Education Home. I'm Herb.
And I'm Christina. And together we bring you experts